So I wanted to go over how to craft some of the Archmage gear that I'm using. In the background you can see the base, how much they cost to get before we start crafting them. Getting the base is a lot cheaper than getting the finished item. We can craft it ourselves for a lot cheaper than what they're going for on trade. And there's different roles that we can look for. What we're looking for is just any fractured suffix. Could be absolutely anything, intelligence, res, rarity. And you can see I'm showing the price of the finished items, whether it's the price, the boots or the gloves. We can make these for way less than what they're being sold for on trade. You can even make a profit with selling them afterwards. So let's just jump into it. So what we're looking for is we're looking for a 1T1 prefix. That could be anything. It could be move speed, it could be flat ES, percent ES, just like that. Mana, and depending on your budget is what level you want to settle at. So once we hit the Exalt, do we settle on our T2, T3, or do you keep going for T1? That's where the price difference comes in. And what we're looking for here on the Exalt, so what we're going to do is we're going to force the prefix, another prefix, by using this Omen of Exaltation and a Greater Exalted Orb, because they're very cheap at the minute. You could do this with Perfects, but again, that goes into the more expensive budget. Now, if you miss with the Exalt, you have to go back into Chaos rolling. So we're going to carry on here and see what we get. We got T4, which isn't really good. But now, if that's okay for you, you could settle on that. And then what you do is, if you settled on this, you would force the prefix Desecration. So again, in terms of budget, you can either go with the Preserve Rib, which are incredibly cheap, but more times than not will give you a lower tier roll, or you can go with the Ancient Ribs, which are I think about 2 divines at the minute, which have a better chance of giving you higher tier rolls. So I think just for the demonstration, I'm going to stick with this. And then the way we force the Desecration to be a prefix, just make sure you take one of your Necromancy Omens, right click it, click the Preserve Rib. That forces the last prefix. So once we're able to get to this part, all we do from here is click our echoes when we go to the well. Once we go to the well, depending on the rolls that you've already hit, if you've hit T1 flat or T1% or mana or move speed, that's the other mod that you would be looking for. So we're going to be looking for move speed here if we can get it. So right click our echoes. We got 30 move speed. If you can settle on 30, or you can re-roll again for a chance of 35, because this is an 82 base. But for the demonstration, I'm just going to stop there. So there's our boots back now, and this is good enough for kind of starter gear, which was very cheap to make. So the way you make the suffixes now, there's a few things that you can do. If you wanted to force more crafted mods, you could do it if you went and got Astrid's Creativity. But with Astrid's Creativity, that would be on the more kind of expensive side if you're just starting off to build and if you don't have a lot of divines. But this is a very, very good cost-effective way to get the extra mods onto it. So again, for the suffixes, you're kind of looking for whatever you want. If you don't have a problem with res, what you do is you'd grab your Essence of Horror, which will give you the 60% increased effect of the socket. But before we slam one of these, we want to make sure that our suffixes are full, because if they're not full, it can take away from one of the other mods to give us a suffix, which we don't want. So just to finish off the last 2 suffixes, what we could do is we could just take our Greater Exaltation, right click it, click up on the Exalted Orb again, and we got pretty useless mods there. But then if we wanted to force this, which we easily could, we click this, and this will get rid of one of the suffixes that we don't want. The important thing to watch out for, actually, when you're buying, say, a Fractured Rarity, this roll is from the Essence. So this already has a crafted mod, even though it doesn't show up as a crafted mod. But you could still force the socket effect onto it with Astrid's Creativity if you wanted to. But it's just, it depends where you are kind of in the budget. So I would double check for the rarity that it's not crafted because that it takes up one of the crafted slots. So it's the same thing if we wanted to craft the gloves. We have fractured cold res, which is not crafted. So we do the exact same thing again. We were gonna click away until we hit any other T1 prefix, or T1 or T2, depending on where you want to stop if you don't want to waste too many of your chaos. If you wanted to go for a really good gear, I would go for the T1s. There's T1 mana. We gain our exaltation, we get a greater exalt, we force the prefix, we got T2 lightning. So if you get a mod that's completely useless like this, you will have to annul it off. If you annul off the wrong mod, you will go back to chaos spamming. So we'll try it again. Accuracy, another useless one. And there we go, it bricked. So when something like this happens, we go back to chaos spamming. And it, depending on your luck, you could get lucky, you could get unlucky, but it still should be a lot cheaper to make it this way than from buying it, because even half-ish decent crafted gloves are about 15 to 25 divs. You could easily get it for a lot cheaper than that. You could settle for, like I said, any T2, because it's definitely depending on your budget whether you want to go for more or less. There's T1 flat. So we'll try it again. Click our exaltation, press a greater exalt, T2 mana. That's fine. So once we hit our T2 mana, we do the exact same thing again. Click our necromancy, force the last prefix, and then once we're at this point, we have flat, we have mana. So on the echoes, we're looking for percent mana, or percent ES. Click our echoes. We got hybrid, don't really care about hybrid. We got 60%. T4. Again, not great, but this is super easy to make, and because the fracture itself is so cheap, as I showed in the previous part, you end up making this for a lot cheaper. And the same thing again, you could do it with forcing the extra socket. So we would do the same thing, double exalt, or omen of greater exaltation, greater exalt, force the last two suffixes, which again didn't give us anything good. But now if we click our essence of horror, there you go, we have the increased socket effect, and we have our useful rolls, not the best rolls, but for starter this is more than enough. So like this will be about 250-ish on the energy shield if we use one of our master runes. I don't have it at the minute, but that's already over 250 ES with mana, 1 res. It's super quick and easy to make these. The exact same thing could be made for the boots and gloves. Helmets as well can kind of be done the same way. So with the gloves that we just made, this is what the gloves would be roughly worth on trade, the ones that we just made. Our energy shield roll is a little bit less. Ours would be just under this once we get the master rune put into it. But you can see the price of similar gloves, how much they're going for, and how quick and easy they were to make. So if you wanted to spend more currency going for the T1s, the T2s, it would be the exact same process. It would just take a little bit longer. But as you can see, we are not going to be paying over 100 divines for these gloves when we can craft them ourselves for, I don't know, under 20 divines. They're, like I said, super easy to make, and they're adjustable depending on your budget. So if you are starting off low with low divines, you can make the ones that I just made. If you have more, you can spend more time rolling it, and then the price changes a lot once you go into 2 sockets. Once you're in the 2 socket range, it's definitely worth to fracture it yourself, because once you have the 2 sockets, it becomes a lot more pricey. But this is more kind of a beginner step just to get into the build, into the crafting part of it. So I can go more in depth in how to make more of this gear for higher budgets if people are interested. This was a very, very budget version of how to craft these gloves, simply because I don't want people to be paying what the market price is when you can make them for a lot cheaper. So if people want to see more advanced version of these crafts, just let me know.